Hey everybody, welcome to the Dog Owners Podcast. My name's Vinnie, that's Brent, and today's episode's a great episode. It's about getting your second dog, third dog, fourth dog, all the questions that you may have before you get that new dog. Brent and I are going to answer today, so let's jump right in and get started.
What's up, guys? And we're back for another episode of the Dog Owners Podcast. As Vinny said, we're going to be talking about and answering all the questions that you guys might have about getting your next dog. So, as most inquiries go, let's start with why are we getting a dog in the first place? Now, there's a couple of reasons that are better than other reasons to get dogs. Some that, might be worth considering and kind of bring in a little caution to, like I'm getting a dog to fix my dog's behavior. That's definitely a no-no, right? Don't get me wrong. Sometimes dogs can help give our dogs exercise and attention, but if your dog has behavioral problems, it's good for you to consult with a professional to make sure that what you're about to do is safe. Okay. Number two, sometimes if we lose a dog in our pack, we get another dog impulsively and we use the new dog as a form of therapy for ourselves. So not saying that there can't be benefits for getting another dog for that, but just really, really know yourself, really think about not putting the expectations of the old dog on the new dog and be fair. And later we're going to talk about raising the dog in front of us so that they can be the best versions of themselves. What are some other ones, Vinny?
Commonly, owners will say, but my kids want a dog and they're going to help out. I'm going to tell you right now, okay, your kids are not going to help out.
No.
They'll do it for the first week and then you're stuck picking up the shit and you're stuck taking the dog out and doing all these things. So just because your kids want a dog, if your heart is not in it as the parent, then we're in trouble. And that's something that we have to really look at is, do I want the responsibility as much as my kids say they're going to help? It's going to end up being all on me and my spouse. Are we ready for that? And that leads me right into like, do I want it? Am I the one who is saying yes? And if the answer is yes, dude, let's get another dog. And Brent will tell you, and we've talked about this before in podcast, Brent, but one of your missions is to bring back the multi-dog household. I've had as many as up to 4. I know Brent has had a hell of a lot more than that. I enjoy having multiple dogs. It is a lot of fun, but there are certain things that you need to look for. And one thing I kind of want to reframe everybody's brain before we get started on what are the things that we need to look for. The biggest mistake, bar none, to me is when we get a new dog, we expect to live with the same way that our current dog is or that our past dog is. And Brent just mentioned raising the dog in front of you. And that's a very important concept because when you get an 8-week-old dog, like I look at it, I try to bring everything back to a human analogy so we can understand it a little bit easier. If my brother, when he was 16, I was 11, just because he had keys to a car doesn't mean I should be able to drive. Like age should be a huge determining factor on our freedoms and our limitations. And for your brand new dog that you're bringing in, if it is a younger dog, even if it's not a younger dog, we shouldn't feel bad about having different sets of rules because you do need to grow into a different owner for each dog. And it's very important that if we can put that in our brain of going, hey, if I am getting a new dog to make up for a loss, this new dog is not that old dog. Right? Or if I'm getting a new puppy and I have a 5-year-old sweetheart of a dog who's a piece of cake, your new puppy's not going to be that. So when you tell yourself it's going to work like that, you're going to accidentally...
You're going to get disappointed very quickly.
Yeah, and you're going to hate them. You're going to resent them is a better word. And that happens all the time. And then we have a heart-to-heart with a client, Brent, and they're like, I need to relax. Like, I need to drink a little bit here.
I need to drink a little bit. Well, another thing that leads for resentment is, like, sometimes we'll set an expectation on a dog where it's like, okay, I want this dog to be a playmate for my other dog. Right. But a couple things we got to consider is A, does my dog want a sibling? B, is my dog at an age or energy level where adding a sibling will be advantageous to them or disadvantageous, right? Like we all know, like sometimes there's a dog who they're retired, they're grumpy, they just want to be on someone's lap and get pets and belly rubs by the people. If we were to bring another dog into that household, it pissed them off. However, I have met dogs who, because naturally they are social dogs. What's the word? Gregarious.
They're gregarious, my friend. They're gregarious.
That's a word that Vinny just taught me actually before we started recording. For those of you guys who don't know what gregarious means that you like company. Right. And there are some dogs that are social and they like people company, dog company. And then there are dogs who are introverted and antisocial and they just kind of want their own, their comfort zone and what makes them happy is very small. Right. And so we got to kind of know what dogs we currently have before we start making plans to add another dog. to the mix as well.
Yeah.
Because as Vinny said, it adds to the resentment, right? Like you might get a dog for this purpose and this utility for your other dog. And if the dog doesn't fit that mold you're trying to get him to fit in, now we don't like that dog anymore. Or if we see that dog causing my older dog stress, sometimes that happens a lot too.
Brent and I talked a lot about our current dog, their age being a factor in getting another dog, but also their social skills should determine that too. Because I can have a 10-year-old dog who's kind of lazy, but when he is in a social setting, he's super happy-go-lucky. Well, I might be able to add 6 months to this dog's life just because he's a little bit more motivated to move because of this new pups in this house or this new dogs in this house. So I can extend that dog's quality of life. But if that same 10-year-old dog is super antisocial, man, you kind of are put a burden on this dog's life in the last 2 years. We've already committed to that dog. So if that is your dog, we can just wait. And I have a trainer, Michelle, who wants a new dog so bad. She wants a third dog so bad, but she has a 17-year-old dog who's not healthy and a 14-year-old dog who's getting older. And it would be so unfair to bring in a dog right now with the 7-year-old not being healthy. As much as she wants one, I respect her so much for waiting because it's just not the appropriate time, considering the fact that she's been loyal to this one dog for 17 freaking years. You know what I mean? So we always have to put that into perspective. But let's say, Brent, that we are looking to get a new dog. What are some certain variables that we should look at? Where do we start looking?
One thing that I like to look at, again, age, there needs to be an age discrepancy, right? So a couple things that you guys have to be concerned about. Bringing over similar ages, similar temperaments, and sometimes even similar breeds, right? Like sometimes certain dogs, certain personalities of dogs are genetic packages. Like if I get a bulldog and I get another bulldog and they're similar in temperament and similar in age, well, don't be surprised if they start fighting over shit, right? If I get a dominant female German Shepherd and another dominant female German Shepherd, don't be surprised if they start fighting over shit, because dogs, in order for packs to work, in order for teams to work, everyone has to have complementary strengths, right? And one thing to kind of consider is, this dog might have a specific niche of like, I'm the protector and I'm the boss, and the other one has to be able to have the complementary opposites of that, right? So maybe they're more subordinate and they're more of the alert system instead of the actual enforcer that goes and lunges at the people at the gate, right? So we got to kind of look at our dog's temperament and personality and who they are and who they've been for long periods of time, and that'll help us kind of understand what we got to do. Now, generally speaking, opposite sexes will have better chemistry than same sexes, right? So if I have a boy dog, maybe I can get a girl dog, right? Typically, the matching of whether you have a boy dog or a girl dog, I would like to get a dog who is younger than the older dog that I have, right? Now we're talking like before 7 years old, right? Like pre-senior age, right? Or under 5 or 7, depending on what kind of breed you have, right? If you have larger breeds, 5 years old is kind of getting close to senior. If you have a freaking terrier, 8, 9 years old, they're still fine. You know what I mean? So it just kind of depends what senior is for you. But if I have an elder female, then I will get a younger male. If I get a dog who's too old, they're harder to mold and shape socially. Like ideally, if you guys get a young dog, like 6 months, 5 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, that's great. That's very shapeable. An elder dog can shape that dog. And we'll talk about generational learning a little bit later. But if I have a 5-year-old dog and I bring in a 4-year-old dog, well, there's not going to be as much learning. That's going to be more matchmaking. We have
100%.
We have to do a lot better matchmaking.
Exactly. That's where picking the right dog comes to even more play. But when you get a dog who is 8, 10 weeks old, it is so much easier, right? Because one, first off, we know their past. There was none. So it makes it a lot easier on our end. And then two, they're going to be way more accepting of social cues because they go, well, I don't want to offend this other dog. Where another 4-year-old dog that you bring into the house with a 4-year-old dog, well, hey, dude, I've been the top dog for a while, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it was on the street, in the shelter or whatnot, granted, we have no idea. So that makes it hard. They will compete. Not every time, but it's something that happens enough that we do need to be aware of it. No matter what, guys, if you're not going to get a puppy and you are going to get a shelter dog or a rescue dog, I cannot explain the importance of getting these dogs together a few times before we actually commit to taking this dog on full time. If the rescuer says, hey, we can do a 2-week foster to adopt sort of program, because it tells you right away what your dog is capable of. Brent, one of the reasons we're doing this podcast, I had a client reach out and say, hey, my dog's 5 years old. I'm ready I'm mentally ready for this next dog. What are the things I have to look for? And I said, you know what? I'll film a podcast on it this week and I'll just send it to you. But one option I gave to them is are you in contact with any local rescues? And they said, yeah. I said, a lot of these rescues have the ability to foster, to adopt. Why don't we see how your dog does with another dog in the house? Your dog's never had that happen before. Right? So why don't we just see how this works out? And it's a really good trial phase. So if you're planning on rescuing a dog that is, most rescues, the puppies are gone right away. Right. So if you're going to get a pup, that's fine. But if I'm looking at an older dog, 6 months plus, well, that's a really good option to see if that's the right dog for you. So always keep that in the back of your mind. I'm not a big fan of creating a frat house, Brent. So I don't want a boatload of young dogs, right? Like that's not ideal. They're way harder to manage. And typically your 9-month or 1-year-old dog is not well trained or behaved enough to be a good teacher of the next 4-month-old dog that you bring into the house. So you kind of have this frat house mentality where they're a little all over the place. You know what I mean? So personally, I think everybody should wait until their dog is not only in a good place behaviorally, but also in a good at a good age, right? I'm going to wait till Crunch is about 1.5 years, 2. I'm getting that third dog. And at that point, Brent, when that third dog's 1.5, 2, I'm getting that fourth dog.
Yeah.
Catch up to you, brother.
Well, because what you're doing is you're making sure your dogs are mature enough for a sibling, right? It is actually really funny if you do what Vinnie is saying, where you wait till your dog is like 2 or 3 and then you get the next dog, you will see the same dog who was a brat for 2 years all of a sudden become the big brother or the big sister, and now they're mature. Now they're like controlling the shit in the new puppy over the same stuff that they used to do. You know what I mean? So it's just really cool to see, like, oh, when the student becomes the master all of a sudden, right? So that I really like. And I think this is a good place we start talking about generational learning, which is what you're describing, right? Like Vinnie also taught me this vocabulary word called generational. Can I explain
where it came from?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So I had this client who had their 6th German Shepherd. This is years ago, right? This is the first time I ever thought about this, but this had to be a decade ago. And they explained, this is our 6th German Shepherd. Every single one of our dogs has done X, Y, Z. Lunge at the front door, be protective at the front door, lunge at the mailman, the whole 9 yards. They go through this whole list of behaviors. They always get the next dog when that first dog's like 5 years old, and they get the next one who taught this new dog all these shitty behaviors. And it's like, dude, we've gone 40 years now. Right. And these people have had the same issue for 40 years.
Yeah.
Because they never fixed their first dog. The first dog teaches that next dog, and it backfires immensely. However, the opposite is also true. Right. So that is why I'm saying, if I can teach this dog how to be a good citizen, a good member of society, and I feel like I have a lot of control with this dog, we're on a great place, and I bring that second dog in, understand when you bring in a new dog in, your whole world's going to get flipped upside down. Right. It is inevitable that you're going to hate your new dog. Right? Everyone wakes up one day.
It being easy peasy is the anomaly. So if you guys get an easy peasy second, third dog, then good for you. Just count your blessings.
Yes. You know? Yes. Yeah. It's not going to happen twice. So when you have that dog and you get the new dog, you're going to see that, man, my dog is picking up on every single one of the traits that I love about my dog. Now, I see this in my current pack, right? So I'm on my 5th dog as an adult, and I see traits from my 5th dog that I saw in my first dog. Like, I see the same things getting passed down to dogs, and to me, it's like the most beautiful thing in the world. And that is why it's so important, guys, to train your first dog before you get that one. Brent touched on that at the beginning. Like, are you getting the second dog just to keep your first dog company because they're a huge pain in the ass, because they're annoying? Well, you're going to have 2 annoying dogs, dude. Like, you're going to have 2 huge pains in the ass. And I've got 2. That's why I'm using Preparation H. So that's why I'm saying do not get that second dog yet, right? You're just not ready. And that's okay. Brent, I love that you brought up the sex thing. I'm not a big fan of 2 females. I don't see it work as often. I see it cause more problems than I would in 2 boy dogs, right? And I would say that across the board, a lot of dog trainers see the same thing. Something that we need to think about.
Well, here's kind of the reasons why, and I'm actually quoting Dr. Ian Dunbar here, who's a dog behaviorist. And the interesting thing when it comes to socialization, or when it comes to hierarchies in pack mammals, right? So not just dogs, but like even gorillas and elephants and things like that. typically males of the species keep a really linear hierarchy. Like even I think of me and my brothers. At a young age, my big brother beat up my brother in the middle and psychologically taught him like, hey, you don't challenge me. I'm above you, right? And then my middle brother beat me up when I was small. And when I say beat me up, it could emotionally, intellectually, whatever you want to think, right? But ultimately, we found our places really young with each other when we were small. And that hierarchy doesn't really change even now that we're in our 30s and our 40s, right? Like that hierarchy, there's no need for me to challenge it. There's no need for us to fight each other. There's no need for us to bicker over stupid stuff. Also, we're just mature now. But typically, the hierarchy of dominance stays the same with most males. This is why it's easier for us to like be in the military, and it's easier for us to be told what to do and say, yes, sir, and right away, okay, because once this respect is established, it's easy. However, with females of a species, sometimes it's contextual, right? Based on, there's a lot of hormonal changes that happen. There's a lot of contextual things that change. Like, am I with my babies? Am I not with my babies? Am I in charge of resources? Am I not? Am I bigger than you? Like, there's so many different things where the hierarchies with female dogs tend to switch and swap and stuff like that. And it's so funny because I see the human representation of it in my own family, like with my mom, my grandma, and my aunt, right? You would think it would be like grandma, my mom, and then my aunt. And then in actuality, they constantly change hierarchies. Like different people are right. And there's the respect shifts and changes all the time. So I see that a lot with even internal my own family, but maybe that's just a Latin family. I don't know. But yeah, there is behaviorally different ways that hierarchies are formed that are pretty fascinating to think about. And when you get two female dogs, the likelihood of there being some type of conflict, it just goes up. The probability, not even likelihood, the probability raises. And I know plenty of clients, they have multiple female dogs and they're doing just fine. And I do want to shout those people out because I know it does happen. However, when we do see inner dog fighting, it is usually two females or two dominants, and they could be males. Yeah.
That's a good way to audit your own dog before you get that next dog. So what I mean by that audit is, if I have a dog who's extremely dominant, do I really want to add in the same sort of dog who I know is going to challenge his dog? That's number one. But also, if I have a dog who is nervous, do I want to bring in another timid, nervous dog where now I'm going to have a therapy session for my dogs on a regular basis because they're both afraid of everything? Like if I had a timid dog, I actually want a confident dog. That's something that I'm looking for, to say, well, this is going to bring out the best of my confident dog. And not to say that those are the only two temperament types, because they're not. They're just the most two common. This also brings us to energy level, and something that we should look at with our dog as well. If I have a dog who's kind of a lazy dog, and I bring in this rambunctious Belgian Malinois who's all over the place, and this dog's going, why? Yeah. Why did you just ruin my life? Right? Like, I just want to lay here. I don't want to do this. That's probably not the best case scenario for my current dog who I've committed to. That's not good for me. There is this rule of thumb of like, do not get a higher energy than the energy that you have right now, because it's just going to add a little bit more chaos to our home. So if I have a high energy dog, I would love to get a medium energy dog just to kind of help bring the energy level not through the roof.
Well, one thing I would add to that is social skills of your dog and social skills of the dog you're bringing in, right? So like if you had a Shih Tzu and that Shih Tzu was an only child for 7 years, and now the dog is 7 and loves to sleep on the couch 20 hours out of the day. Well, that dog's social skills, when it comes to another canine, is probably going to suck. Reading body language, communicating approval and disapproval, playing. Like your dog may not have the social skills for another sibling. And it doesn't have to be a Shih Tzu. It could be any type of breed. That's something to consider, right? And if I am going to bring in a dog that does require a lot of social skills, as you mentioned, like a pushy puppy or a playful puppy. So many times I'll have clients who their older dog doesn't know how to set boundaries because they were never taught by other dogs how to set boundaries. So now you have this new puppy or this young whippersnapper picking on the older dog. And sometimes the older dog is like a Labrador, and the lab is like, I've never told the dog to fuck off before. You know what I mean? And so you'll see there's conflict simply because the dog doesn't know how to advocate for himself. So the social skills of your dog, and then also you have to consider the social skills or lack of social skills that a new dog might have, whether it be a puppy or it be a new rescue dog that you're bringing in as well.
Another variable that we need to think about, Brent, is time and money.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs are expensive
Yep.
and veterinary care is expensive and you have to be prepared for that. Like, for instance, I've got to take Crunch to the emergency next week and I'm totally prepared to spend 5, 7, 8 grand on this. Right. And if I have a dog who is, some dogs are just not healthy, right? They have to go to the vet often. There's a lot of problems. There's been a lot of problems. Am I prepared to drop 5, 7, 8 grand and take care of this new puppy who may also go down a similar path, right? Because you should never put your family in financial hardship because of adding a new dog. I think that's really difficult to say, but it is true. Like we got to really think about our family before we add in something else to this family. And then time. You may be on easy street right now. You may have a dog who's 4 years old, who's a piece of cake, really doesn't require all that much from you. Okay, are you prepared to wake up an hour earlier and then do one more hour worth of work after your workday for this new dog that you're bringing in? Because I don't give a shit if it's an 8-week-old puppy or if it's a 7-year-old rescue dog. It is going to require a lot of your personal time. The one thing that I don't want us doing, Brent, is I don't want us adding in a new dog and then allowing them to figure it out. And their only time that this dog spends out of the crate is with this other dog in pure chaos. My mentor explained this to me 15 years ago, and it was one of the coolest things for me to actually learn is I already have a relationship with my dog now. I'm going to develop a new relationship with this dog on a one-on-one level. That new dog, you and I are going to get to know each other by ourselves. These two dogs are going to get to know each other by themselves without me. And then we're also going to have a relationship, the three of us as a pack, or however many people are in your house as a pack. Do not exclude that first one, though. Do not exclude how important it is for you to spend quality time with your new dog. And don't feel bad that, hey, I'm getting a new dog who's going to require a little bit more work, which means I may have to spend more time with that one dog than my other. No biggie. We shouldn't feel bad about that because you know what's going to happen in 5 years from now? When you get that next new dog, one's retired, one's got to go to work. And that's the way it is. But if you throw out all of this guilt and feeling bad about it, it makes it so much easier because it just gives you a chance to take a deep breath and shut the hell up.
Yeah, and when we invest that time, I think the smart thing is, as Vinny said, always make sure that you have the time. Eventually, just like any process, eventually the end goal of any process or system is that I don't have to like spend all the time, right? Like early on in the relationship, you are nurturing and raising the dog in front of you, so that at some point your dog becomes part of the pack and your dog knows, what the right moves to make are and what the right decisions to make are and how to take feedback from the other dogs and kind of read the play and understand what the schedule of the day is. And once you get to that point, then yeah, having multiple dogs can be pretty easy.
Yes.
But getting to that point, it just takes some time and effort and paying attention and getting to really know who that new dog is as an individual and helping raise that dog into their best version of their self, And yeah, it's cool because I currently have 5 dogs. So I have 4 dogs and a foster, right? And every single dog is a goofball who likes to play, right? And so there's downtime, there's playtime. There's obviously, I have Grandpa who's an old timer. He's like a 9-year-old Great Pyrenees. And, he likes to play too sometimes, but he's the authority figure. When he goes, whoa, everyone stops doing what they're doing. And Dynamite is the second in command. He is ready to check any young dog, who's out of line or being too much. And then Rocket, his job is to bother the shit out of his brother Dynamite. That's literally his job all day. He will grab his hock and his legs and just bite them when he's running. I say all this stuff because that's their social order with people. One thing I learned when raising Rocket was I can't play fetch with Dynamite and Rocket at the same time because Dynamite will prevent Rocket from getting the ball. I remember for like the first 6 months of Rocket's life, I thought he hated the ball. But it was just because his brother was around. So I started playing fetch with Rockets by himself. And he got really good at fetch. And now I can play fetch with both of them. But it was just an interesting thing that like siblings, while they have their own order to things, siblings have a tendency of also keeping dogs in their niche or in their box.
Yeah. One thing to add to that, Brent, you talked about at the beginning, when we get a new dog, we're going to spend a lot of time with that new dog. And that's perfect. As they kind of fall into the mix and they become a part of this system that you have in place, they will play a lot together. Like they will do a lot together. they will spend a lot of time together, which is beautiful, right?
Mhm.
Even during that time, when you get to Easy Street again for the second time, right? We are on Easy Street, got a new dog, we're back on Easy Street again. It's still really important, guys, that you do have an individual relationship with each one of your dogs. I assume it's the same way with kids. I don't have kids, but going to spend some time with one child and then go and do it a completely different thing, maybe with my daughter than I did with my son. It's so important to build that relationship where you can still take just one of them out. Even if you have 10, I don't care. Take just one of them out. Do something with just that one dog and then go back into the fold.
Yeah, I love it. Well, let's kind of talk next about some things to consider and things to kind of be aware of. You know, on social media, if you guys are, following dog training or you guys follow different advice, you're going to hear certain common like urban legends and kind of some advice that's common. And one of them is going to be littermates. So let's chat a little bit about littermates. You want to take it away?
So littermate syndrome, okay, you've watched enough of my videos and enough of Brent's videos to have probably heard us explain this before. This doesn't mean that every time I take two puppies from the same litter that they're guaranteed to have issues and to fight. That's not the case, but it is definitely more prevalent when we take two dogs from the same litter versus taking two dogs from different litters. Although I'm not a big fan of grabbing two puppies at the same time and raising them for a multitude of reasons, which I'll get into. But we have to be very careful when we have these puppies who have been fighting for the mom's teat since they were a minute old, and they're constantly, I'm using
Testing
the word
each other.
Yes. Yeah. I'm using fighting with quotes, so we'll go with testing, but constantly pushing boundaries and testing each other since day one. And they're going to go through something very important, puppyhood and then adolescence together. And we've got these hormonal beings on our house going through the same hormonal change at the same time. You're going to deal with problems. Like, it's inevitable. Right? They're going to be like teenagers together who just bicker and fight. But sometimes this becomes extreme. And we do see it often enough with littermates to go, is this the right solution for me? And that's something that I would put a little asterisk next to my brain. Maybe I shouldn't get two puppies at the same time. But if I'm going to get two puppies, maybe not from the same litter.
And if you are going to get them from the same litter, definitely opposite sex, right? Because here's the cool thing about nature. If I have a brother and a sister that grow up together, well, female dogs go through puberty 3 months earlier than male dogs. So they get to boss him around while he's still juvenile, And then once he's 10 months old, then he goes through puberty, right? So female dogs at 7 months, boy dogs around 10 months. And that's how nature designed it. So there's going to be less probability of infighting if you have opposite sexes that are littermates. And if you guys do currently have littermates and you're listening to this, just know that if you see conflict, management is key. Do not let them rehearse fighting, resource guarding, sassing each other. Separate them and only put them together when you can supervise them and referee them and allow them to mature and grow up, and simultaneously develop control over them, right? Get them to relax, teach them how to pay attention to you, teach them how to stop on command. These things are going to be extremely important for developing brains who might have natural competition with each other. Now, there's this other side that happens with littermates is that they can also become hyper codependent on each other.
Yes.
Okay. You want to jump into that a little bit?
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, we actually don't just see this with littermates. It's just more profound with littermates. But this happens with dogs all the time who have never spent time away from each other. Obviously, if they were born at the same time and have spent every waking minute being alive together, it's going to be more profound. But what we mean by that is that they aren't okay without the other dog being around. So it's more than just, I want this dog around. It's almost an addiction that I need this dog to be around. And there's separation anxiety between the dogs, much like we see with separation anxiety between human and dog or dog and human. If you do happen to get two young dogs at a similar time, like Brent was saying, it is important to have good management systems, good controlling, put boundaries and limits with your relationship so that it can extend to other relationships. Once again, it's also really important that we do spend time, just like I talked about before, taking one dog out without the other. Putting one dog in the crate and bringing one into the house. Now, that goes well beyond littermates. This should go for if you have two dogs who are completely different ages, breeds, sexes, doesn't matter. It's important that they learn that I don't need to be doing something every single day with that dog at every single time. It's important that we separate these dogs at times. They shouldn't be relying on each other, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. Just the same that we shouldn't feel bad if we do have different ages with different sets of rules, the whole 9 yards. So it extends well beyond littermates. It goes into our dog's entire life. So always keep that in mind.
Yeah, I love that. So if you guys are in a situation where you're getting litter mates, you pick opposite sexes. If you see conflict and infighting at a really, really young age, manage your dog, separate them, and only allow them to be together supervised to buy you enough time to develop control over these puppies in hopes that they mature well together. And then as Vinnie was alluding to prevent attachment, make sure that you teach dogs to have structured separation from each other so that, one dog learns to play with toys by himself while you train the other dog, and then switch them, and then maybe take one for a walk while the other one is playing with a ball in the yard, and teach them to be independent of each other as much as possible, just to try and balance out the equation. Another thing that we have to consider early on, especially in the relationship, is how our dogs do around space and privileges and resources, right? One of
Number one way they fight, dude.
Yeah, dogs will fighting over space, like where I can be and what I can do and what I can have, right? And not me, the human, but like towards another dog. So it's not weird for your dog, who is the one currently who's been moved in for many years and is at home, and you're bringing a new guest into the home. We need to make sure that we're not allowing opportunities for there to be fights. So that means we have to have like a routine around feeding, right? Don't let your dogs clean off each other's bowls in the early stages. If your elder dog is used to being on the couch, that's cool. Doesn't mean that you should right away allow the new dog to be on the couch, especially if you think your dog's going to be sassy about it, right? And then also there's going to be certain privileges, as Vinnie was saying, based on age and based on behavior. Just because you have a dog doesn't mean that he automatically earns all the rights of the older dog. The new dog may or may not know how to handle these new privileges and these new freedoms, may not have the right maturity, may not have enough trust inside of the family to make the right decision. So we always like to treat new additions to the family kind of like new puppies, right? For the first 2 to 3 months, there's going to be structure, there's going to be rules, and gradually I'm going to have this phased approach to make sure that my dog at some point earns all of that freedom. So that way I can just let them be part of the pack and there's no conflict.
It's so much easier if you start day one with that mindset versus free for all. And then 3 months in you go, holy shit, I just created a mess and I have to backtrack. Because now I just wasted so much time where my dog's picked up on all of these bad habits that I have to unteach and teach good habits. Where from day one, Brent, we just go, hey, this is the way it is because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
It does make it a lot easier. When we're talking about resources like food is such a common area where dogs, puppies, young dogs, new dogs, they're attracted to food, right? Like bees and honey. So if you're feeding them in an area where it's open and my puppy finishes the food faster because there's less food and then runs over to the next bowl and there's this big explosion, that explosion that happens with the dogs doesn't get erased. That is a memory that each dog logs, and with enough time, sometimes it's one, but a lot of times if this continues to happen, you're going to see where their relationship can be tainted because I just don't like that thing anymore. Because we let this happen. So we just have to really control the high value resources food. That's why we feed in crates. It makes it so much easier. If you're going to get a high value bone, you'll get them on your place beds. You don't have to have them next to each other. Create time where they can have an item without getting nagged by the other dog. I have 2 things that I want to add from personal experience here, Brent. I had Xena, my Saint Bernard, who's 9 years old, and I had Roscoe, who I rescued for my wife when we got together, who's 7 years old. And Roscoe, before I had him, just wasn't dog friendly, right? Just not dog friendly. He would fuck somebody up. So I got him integrated with my pack, and I want to talk a little bit about that. It made it a lot easier because I had a 160-pound Mastiff when I integrated Roscoe, who was just a fucking beast, right? Like confident, calm, not overbearing, but also if you cross the fucking line, you're going to find out.
Yeah.
So that makes everything easier when you have a bouncer, because now it's like, oh shit, I got to pay attention to that dog. But I brought in Roscoe, I have Xena, and I want to get a new puppy with the understanding that, Roscoe now has like 10, 15 friends, not an overwhelming amount. I don't really trust everybody's dog, and I don't want to socialize my dog with a wrong dog and end with a problem. But I'm bringing a new dog in, right? So I know I'm going to get Crunch Brent, and I also know that Roscoe at times can be a dick. Like that's
Mhm.
something that is in the back of my mind. That doesn't mean I can't get another dog. It just, I have to keep it there. With all that being said, just because you're bringing in a new puppy and you have these current dogs, I want you to watch for two things. One, it is totally normal and preferable that the older dogs do set fair boundaries. So what I mean by fair boundaries, if the puppy bites Roscoe's tail and he snaps at him, I'm okay with that. If the puppy nips Roscoe's tail and Roscoe tries to kill him, that's a problem. That's
Yeah.
not a fair consequence.
Right.
Okay. And Xena was a much better teacher at this than Roscoe early on, like way better. She would set boundaries faster. And honestly, just her look would kind of solve my problems. But Roscoe, on the other hand, didn't know how to, because he wasn't socialized early on properly, didn't know how to set fair corrections. He often either A, was like, okay, I'm just going to take this until dad helps me out. Or one day he overcorrected something that shouldn't have been corrected at all, right? He's just out there hanging out. Crunch walks by, must have bumped into him, and he laid into him. And that is a great moment for me to teach Roscoe, this is unacceptable. And Roscoe met Jesus that day, Brent. He
He
met
saw the
Jesus.
light for a second.
Yeah, but that was the single best moment for their relationship ever. Because two things happened. One, Crunch was a little bit more aware because he's like,
Yeah.
Jesus, I didn't know that Roscoe could do that. And Roscoe also was, holy shit, I didn't know that dad was prepared to meet me with the same violence that I was prepared to meet this puppy with.
Yeah. Good
And
point.
since then, they're best friends. They're inseparable. We have to think about that as like, hey, my current dog is setting boundaries with this puppy. That's good. As long as they're fair, like the puppy walking across the hallway is not a boundary that needs set. The puppy nipping or doing something that's inappropriate. But Brent, you talked about this earlier in the podcast where some dogs just don't know how to offer corrections.
Mm-hmm.
That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is now your job because your puppy just doesn't know how to. That's okay. We can do that as well. It also is a clear indicator that I need to get my dog around other dogs who know how to set boundaries so that my new puppy can pick up on social cues. Because if my current dog never sets boundaries and it's only me, my dog will be a social moron around dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They just won't know how to pick up on cues. So that's something I want you guys to think about is if you have a dog who's like, I got really good control over this dog. He's not the most social dog of all time. I will say it's so much easier with a puppy, Brent, than it is bringing in a 9-month-old or a year-old dog or a 5-year-old dog. But you can still manage that relationship and it can blossom as long as you are doing everything correct.
I agree. I think that's a great 2 cents to add. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I just think you guys should get another dog for two reasons. Number one, it's more fun. Brent's talked about that a boatload. Two, I get more money. So that's a huge fucking... Listen, I'm going to hit you guys with one last thing. Life is hard. The world sucks, but there's nothing better than coming home to your dogs. You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
There's nothing better. So if you're in a good place, do me a favor. Go get another dog. Just make sure it's the right dog. Take everything that Brent and I talked about. Audit your personal dog and go find that next dog.
So that brings us to the end of our episode about getting another dog. If you guys are listening to this on Spotify or Apple, make sure that you guys follow us and you guys will get notified when we drop a new episode.
Leave a review.
Yeah, leave a review, guys. The more reviews that we get, the more we organically show up in the search engines when people type in, dog podcasts and things like that. So please help us out. Now, if you guys are also watching this on YouTube, we just started creating clips of certain sections of these episodes. So make sure you share some of those with your friends. It's longer form. It's not, an hour-long podcast, but we have our 5 to 10-minute clips of us talking about subjects. So check out our YouTube channel as well. My name is Brent LaBrada, and that's Vinnie Somma, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the Dog Owners Podcast. Peace.